and welcome to another episode of Golden Nuggets with Silvia Eldawi. Today, I'm joined by Cherif Sleiman, who is the CRO, Chief Revenue Officer of Property Finder, which is the leading tech company in the region, I'd say, my go-to for property searching. And of course, everybody in the industry knows about Property Finder. At last, we get to kind of delve deeper into some of the intel that you may have and some of the characters behind the business. So welcome to the show, Cherif.
Thank you, Silvia. It's a pleasure to be here.
We're going to have a good conversation. I have lots of questions and you have lots of answers, but also there's a lot that you can share. You've got a huge, illustrious tech career background. And I think it's important for people to kind of differentiate, as you mentioned, that Property Finder is not a real estate company. It is a tech company serving the real estate industry, solving lots of problems, but we're going to go into that in a second. How did you end up at Property Finder?
Thank you, Silvia. And again, it's a pleasure to be here and thank you for having me. As a tech leader, I go back to the early days. I was born and raised in Lebanon, computer science and engineering graduate. Grew up in the United States, and for the past 30 years, I've been fortunate to work for big multinationals on the engineering, product, as well as the commercial side. And like every other Arab, when you get to a certain age, family calls and your culture kicks in, and then you start kind of contemplating the journey back home. Now, particularly why I ended up at Property Finder after deciding to come back in 2006. As a young entrepreneur and a young leader, I remember missing many important things in my life. My daughter's birthdays. I have two daughters, Nadia, who's 22, finishing her master's at Johns Hopkins, and Natalie, my 19-year-old, finishing her second year at Georgia Tech in aerospace engineering. And I have my third daughter, 18-month, Nala.
Cute.
And I felt that when we decided to get pregnant, I felt that was my chance to redeem myself as a father. Now that we don't really have to worry about education and status and accolades and degrees. Decided to come back here and wanted to really come home for dinner. I managed very large organizations globally. I was never home, like 27, 28 days out of the month, I'm never home. And that was particularly why I wanted to come here. Now, why Property Finder? Of course, there were many choices when I decided to come back. Property Finder for me stood out on two fronts. First, it's their vision. When you're kind of courting a company from the outside, you're just trying to understand what they stand for. Their vision has struck a nerve with me. And the other one is when I got to really work very closely or come in close proximity with some of the leaders there, I saw the culture in action. Particularly on the vision, I think it is really, really impressive. When you really take a look, our vision at Property Finder centers around empowering people in their home search journey. When you really take a look at this region, it's a home to millions and millions and millions of young people. And we all know that buying a home or renting a home, the first time you're leaving home, the first time you're buying a home, the first time you're getting married or having kids and needing to expand your home, these are, pinnacle moments in our life. And today they're marred with a lot of anxiety and emotions.
Right.
So how can we really streamline that with data and an engaging experience is very important. But, empowering people in their home search can't really happen without being a very trusted partner to the brokers and developers that have the content. So how do we really acquire that content? Why we're the trusted partner to acquire that content and obviously provide an incredible experience and return on investment for those who decide to partner with us is a lifetime worth of work. And to do that, you have to attract and retain the best of the best in the industry. And if we're doing that very well, then we're not just a good company in this world. We are a very good company for this world. So that kind of spoke to me, and I felt with my experience I could really come and actually do a lot, for this brand, and that's why I'm here.
Amazing. And it is, it's an interesting model. It's similar to most other marketplace models where I, as a consumer, let's say me as a property search, I would think I'm your customer, but actually I'm not your customer. I'm your consumer. The customer is the agency. They're the ones that are paying to play effectively. So how do you kind of bridge that gap between consumer journey, customer first, consumer first? Which one is it?
Let's be very clear. We are a consumer first, platform with a consumer first mindset. We fundamentally believe if we are, if we're going to talk about the nobility of our vision, it has to culminate in a change in the consumer search. From there, everything good can happen, not just for the economy and for society, but for customers as well. Because when you understand the pain in the consumer journey today, where every property must be available, must be authorized, and must be accurate, it conditions customers to work based on standards, where by employing these standards can differentiate and can actually realize a lot of value.
So let's talk about the vision for Property Finder. Just give us a kind of overview of what the vision is.
Perhaps, the anchors of our vision: consumer, customer, and our people. But the reality is to create a marketplace that can serve the consumer needs while creating an engaging, personalized experience for customers. Because today, on the customer side and shaping the customer behavior to align it with what consumer needs, not all customers come with the same size and the same needs. So when we really take a look at the way we look at the market, we look at customers in kind of 4 segments. We have the large enterprises. These are our diamond customers. It takes a village to operate these customers, and they have business models that span, from primary to secondary and rent across many communities. Then you have, the large customers that probably are a smaller version of that. Then we have the SMBs that are, just probably early in their early stages, and they focus on 1 or 2 areas and 1 or 2 business models. And then you have the long tail. Those are kind of the mom and pop shop that probably have some relationships, probably come, from bringing their money and their business from abroad and trying to open. And the very first thing is they want to acquire some stock. So understanding the journey of these different customers and building a platform that understands them, understands their needs, and cater to them is paramount for us. And that's kind of where we're focused, all in line with driving the right consumer experience.
Amazing. Okay. And as with all prop techs, you're solving problems. Some are solving 1 or 2, some are solving multitude. So I see Property Finder as solving a whole host of problems for consumer and customer. Can you tell us what are the main problems you're solving for?
Well, we can probably spend the next week talking about all the problems solving, but let's talk about some of the important ones. So being true to our vision, empowering people in the consumer journey. The word empower can be just an emotional word, but when you translate it into a lot of the things we're doing, is how do you fundamentally enable consumers to understand, all the facts that they really need. First, is the property available?
Okay, let's start with that one, because that is the biggest bugbear, the consumer bugbear, because it's an important one to pause on, because we're all guilty of it. The whole industry has a role to play. Me as a consumer, I would probably start my search at, let's say I'm starting at point A. It would probably take me 2 months from point A to actually start picking up the phone and calling agents. You do your research. You probably do like 2 months worth of research and reconcile where you're going to be or what price bracket you can afford. And then you do the proactive side of the search. It's so disheartening to make that call about this property that you may have saved in your basket or whatever they call it. And then to find out it's no longer available.
Yeah, I mean, look, every thriving market and every thriving industry has its growing pains. While there's incredible amount of positive things, it's always those,
Bad apples.
they have a big impact, and therefore why they really can sour, the taste. But availability is a big accuracy. So today, our partnership with the Dubai Land Department is really delivering some very fruitful things around starting with deeds. So for resale and upcoming the rental digital Form A. Moving forward, you will not be able to see properties that are not available and properties that are not accurate. Correct?
Okay.
Now with
Because there's a feed coming from DLD.
It's a feed. It's that data sharing between us and DLD, and that also culminates in DLD data coming to us via APIs and feeds that in real time is enabled to really assess whether or not a listing is violating certain things. We have a very solid framework inside Property Finder called the AAA framework. Every listing must be available, accurate, and authorized. So we can actually, to a high degree of relevance, through the work that we've been doing with DLD on enriching data, to be able to really ascertain whether a listing in real time is violating things and not allow the listing to come online.
Wow.
Also, when transactions happen, being able to delist things because they have been, rented or, they've been sold.
Title deed. Okay.
So on the sales side, in April timeframe, I think we're going to see massive elevation for resale. Also, the rental, sector will get some incredible boost in terms of trust and transparency as a result of some of the work that DLD is doing that we will basically piggyback on.
How soon can we expect this?
So I believe we will start seeing massive impact in the April timeframe.
April?
Yes.
This year?
Yes.
Next week?
In the next few weeks.
Okay.
Yes. So post-Eid, we should start seeing some change.
So I'm clear that when an Ijari is registered or a property is transferred, there's a trigger that's coming from DLD that's going to notify Property Finder, delist this property.
It's in the final design phase on rental.
So at some point, it's going to be over. We're never going to have to worry about unavailable listings. Actually, there is like a time frame. There is that gap between, let's say, offer accepted and transfer done, where someone could continue to list a property, even though it's not technically available.
Even for that case, and Property Finder, we created the under offer.
Okay.
To even create that transparency, to say, hey, maybe the transaction or the MOU have not been signed or things haven't happened and things could fall through, but a consumer needs to know that this property is under some type of offer or in some form of discussion.
And that will be voluntarily supplied by the agency, not triggered by this API.
If you want to be, yes, exactly. That would be, voluntarily supplied by the agency. But if you want to be a super agent, and later we can discuss the benefits of that, platform, you need to really flag those cases for you to continue to be a super agent, which fundamentally gets you an enormous list of benefits on Property Finder.
Okay, so I don't mind actually calling up and finding out a property is no longer available if there's an immediate alternative. Like, and my practice when I was an agent many, many moons ago, we would leave properties on for a little bit longer than necessary because it was generating good leads or good inquiries. But we always had something to piggyback onto it. But what's happening now, or what's more frustrating, is when you call, you've got the courage up to make a call about property, and that property is not available, and there's no alternative.
That's a function of two things. Supply, because it's been a scarce, supply market for a while, although that is obviously changing in the next, 18 months. And it's the agent preparedness. Like you said, when you were an agent, you would keep property on for a little bit longer. It's a common practice. But if you're doing that without having a series of alternatives, then obviously
pointless.
what have you done with those leads? You have not done these leads proper service.
Yeah. And I'm that person that actually clicks on report listing. I'm that goody two report listing. Why? Because I probably 9 times out of 10, I know the agency owner. So I don't want I don't want anybody else or my fellow renters to be fooled into calling about this property if it's no longer available. So I want to kind of serve my fellow renters, but I also feel a responsibility to the agency owners. Like, you're wasting credits on a property that is useless if there's no alternative. So, okay.
Agreed.
More problems that you're solving?
So, so that entire quality realm we've discussed. The other one is the sorting through some of the emotions. One of the biggest things that consumers ask themselves, hey, am I paying a fair price? And then, what is it like to live in this tower? Are there any reviews? Am I dealing with the right agent? What does the shopping experience look like? What's the schooling experience like? So we've introduced a platform called Data Guru, that today when you're really searching and you click on a listing, in the bottom of the listing, you'll be able to get a lot of insights on that. What's kind of the price and the trajectory of the price. You're able to know a lot more about the agent, the agent's transactions in that community. Is that agent an expert on the community, or you just happen to have a listing that he's carrying, as an ad hoc? Some community reviews and community photos and videos about the tower or the community. So we're trying to start injecting a lot more to sort through the anxiety and the emotions of that. And that has actually received some very positive reviews. It's also a way that agents use that to validate 2 things. One, similar listings. What should I really sell them at? Or the ability to really maybe estimate the property price or rent.
Brilliant. And I like as well that you have the mortgage calculator on there. So it gives you the estimate of how much this is going to cost you monthly. Now, I did notice this reviews, like building reviews thing, but I feel like, especially in this region, people are a little bit more, less likely to submit a review than they would in the UK or the US. So in the UK, I'm not talking about freedom of speech, but there's that fear, level of fear to kind of, I don't really want to, could I be defaming one of the developers if I say something wrong? So,
I wouldn't say it's fear. I would say we have a cultural value called saving face. And locals, Arabs or, expats, when they come here, they tune into that cultural value and they realize it's a politically correct thing. So yes, there's always the pressure. You don't say things if you don't have something nice to say.
Right.
However, we've also taken that into the psychology in our product, where we're creating a rating. Now, whether or not you say things, the rating also speaks. So you have a rating, and then you have reviews, and over time, I think the digital, aspect of things will encourage people, because there's not that warm face-to-face, hand-to-hand. And as you said, when you went to click on that reported properties, there's a lot of people that feel they have that social obligation to talk about what's going on.
And could we talk about the super agent? Because I feel like that's a problem being solved for the consumer, but it could also be a problem solved for the customer.
What's beautiful and amazing about the SuperAgent platform, it's grown beyond what we thought it would be, and it's gone from originally a consumer-centric platform to becoming very much, also a customer-centric platform. Let me, obviously, the SuperAgent is a chapter that we've taken from many great digital, platforms. You have the Airbnb Superhost. It's a mechanism to create more trust in the person and differentiation. Now, from Property Finder's perspective, anchoring trust and transparency with a super agent status also comes with incredible amount of boost for customers, because today a super agent gets 20 to 30% more boost in their listings organically.
The algorithm?
Yes,
Okay.
exactly. It tunes for that. So that's money you're saving. This is why agencies should really strive to push most of their agents to be super agents, because it's money that they're saving instead of having, to kind of spend on credits. And
just a question: is super agent status transferable to another agent? Like if you're a super agent in one agency, when you go to the next agency, do you have to start from the bottom, or you have to?
That is actually a topic that we're hot and heavy right now. Is the super agent seat transfer. We fundamentally believe it should. However, we need to obviously put the right mechanisms in place. Right now, we're not seeing that incredible mobility. It's still a taboo to switch agency. We see more agents probably leaving on their own and starting things. We are in the design phase and the analysis phase of what that really means. But I think the super agent platform still has so much more room for adoption on both, consumers and customers. But one of the important things that we're started to see is, for example, the length of a call between a consumer and a super agent is like 6.5 minutes. So the super agent is taking enough time to ask all the right questions, where a non-super agent, the length of the call is a little bit less than 2.5 minutes.
I could have guessed that.
And
actually, I would have guessed 90 seconds for a non-super agent.
Call answer rates, around 68% super agent, 50% non-super agent.
Right.
Unanswered leads, 15% of the unanswered leads are in the kind of super agents. 25% is non-super agents. So we're starting to see Property Finder really making some inroads on shaping the customer behavior to make sure that we're taking the time to build the right rapport, understanding the consumer requirements, responding in a timely fashion, and providing that quality of service.
So what does it take to become a super agent? What are the headline criteria that you need to?
Look, we won't go into the algorithm, but in general, the buckets are very easy to guess. Obviously, are you listing properties that have the right quality in their descriptions, and the diversity of images, and you have quality stock that you put on there. Primarily, are you responding? And with our closed loop feedback with consumers, when you respond, we know. And then we ask the consumer, how was that engagement? Was the property available? Did you get, did that, agent do the right things? And so the super agent isn't just based on Property Finder, but it's on what the consumers are also really asking in a lot of our consumer surveys. And creating that balance is what creates, that super agency.
So, I mean, if I were to open up an agency tomorrow, it would be a no-brainer to be on Property Finder or to list my properties on Property Finder. But what do agencies need to know about the depth of the relationship with Property Finder?
Obviously, with ultimate humility and based on
you can brag as much as you want.
with all the feedback and the surveys, and we have some incredible amount of data orientation that keeps us humble and grounded. It's hard for an agency to be very successful and big and not have some partnership with Property Finder. The depth is a different thing, because not all relationships are the same. It's very important to understand the journey of an agency or an agent. At the end, you got to becoming an agent. You hired an agencies and you hired some agents. At the end, the success of the agency is the success of the agents. Yes. So it starts with acquiring stock. Being emotional about acquiring stock is one thing. Being data oriented about acquiring stock is another thing. So partnering with Property Finder, you get all the tools that help you understand, through democratization of data in your hands, say, in the different communities, what's being asked for, what is the number of listings versus the number of searches, what versus the consumer, demand, and be able to say, hey, I could be taking a listing that is going to stick with me for many months. I could take, listings on, and then the pricing insights. So yes, I am maybe focused on the right communities, and then I can keep the landlord realistic in their expectations because I have all the data that I can really present to really obviously make sure that I have the right expectations, the right relationship. So that is in my opinion, the inception of a successful journey, and having tools that can be with you, like your smartphone. You just pick it up and do that is something. The other thing is, when you're there, you acquire listing, and now you want to put them. There's a myriad of exposure strategies that Property Finder, affords its customers and its partners. From vying for higher exposure through quality. Hey, I'm just listing standard listings, but I'm going to do such a good job on being a super agent and doing some very good quality work on my listings. And that already just cuts me through a lot of the pages and gets me, closer to a place where I probably can be visible.
Page one. It's only page one, isn't it?
Then you can actually, page one, it's really interesting you should say that. Property Finder, there's no pay for play. There is no amount of money you could pay at Property Finder if your listings are not available, not authorized, of not quality, and somehow you end up being there. That's not going to happen.
Because that's what your UK equivalents, right? Moving Zibli, you can pay to be like premium or the top.
You cannot premium and feature low quality listings. That's not possible. So you can obviously play. Given that you're super agent, given that you have high quality, you can play with where you land by promoting your listings to featured and premium. But then you could basically be a small agency or a big agency wanting leadership in a specific community. Then there's CTS, Community Top Spot. You could be an agent and wanting to really be featured and kind of take market share in a specific community. That's, another product that we have. Then you have Spotlight, where it's not just at a community level. It basically exclusive listings, high net worth listings, luxury listings, that you could be a small customer or a big customer and be able to say, hey, I'm going to premium my listing and I'm going to actually spotlight it because I want to take the market share leadership for those listings and get the highest leads. So from that perspective, you have the ability to craft your success strategy and use the right products, and the right exposure strategies on Property Finder. We don't see that comprehensiveness, in many other, alternatives. And then obviously there's the ROI dashboards where you really know how you're really doing against your competition in specific communities and why. And then there's the business consultancy, the monthly consultancy where business consultants come and they provide a business review tailored with your own data and the market data, with narratives like, hey, this month, the past months, the market went this, Property Finder did that. In the following communities, we've seen an increase. You have decreased because of so-and-so. Here's the recommendations for you. And that's kind of that business partnership where you have that compass helping you at every step of the way to really be the best version of yourself.
Is that your account manager coming to visit once a month, or is that a business consultant?
So we don't have any more account managers. We have business consultants because we fundamentally believe where the account manager is focused on sales, the business consultant is focused on retention, is making sure you're happy. So our account manager concepts have kind of gone out the door 18 months ago. And in the past 6 months, through our, market feedback and customer feedback, we're seeing some very positive, impact from that pivot.
And there's one other thing that while I've got Zoopla and Property Rightmove on the mind, there's a feature, and I don't know if this is coming up in Property Finder, but if I'm a landlord wanting to rent out my property, I'm going to start on one of the portals just to get a flavor for what the rental is. Then I need to know who the top agents are in servicing my postcode in the UK, you know, my location. Is that coming to Property Finder? Yes. Okay.
So we're revamping our entire kind of agent, hub and the agent pages and profiles, where you will be able to search for community super agent. So you'll be able to kind of filter on this and get the right person. And when you click on that, you'll be able to see a myriad of data around their performance, the feedback, the rating, the number of transactions they did, what did the people that they dealt with are saying about them. That's all in the works.
Is there space to have like a review site for agents, or could that get very, very messy?
So you have no idea the amount of debate that takes in our internal rooms.
Because then the industry will be self-cleansing, right?
I do see how this can happen in the future with the power of AI, because today, for you to moderate reviews, think about, right now we're saying we're consumer first. Take a look at a very frustrated consumer who calls and you tell them the truth and they don't really like it, and he goes and just rates you bad. And
or so another agent that hates you.
So we need a lot of structured data and structured problem solving here, where you can apply some machine learning and AI. At this moment, I think we're a little bit further from that.
Okay. All right. So beyond solving problems for the industry, the ecosystem, you actually go above, or considerably above and beyond, helping the sector with a lot of your partnerships and initiatives and so on. Can you tell us about what, let's call it sustainability, right?
It is sustainability.
Hot topic
and
now.
I have to give attribution and Michael, our founder and our CEO, I mean, he's really big on that. That's also one of the reasons that really, really attracted me to Property Finder is, Michael Lahyani, he lives that. He's all about corporate social responsibility. He's all about, trying to drive things to elevate the entire industry. And in all honesty, it puzzles me, his insatiable appetite for, how he drives the organization. But our hands are everywhere, whether it's DLD teaming around solving the primary problem, the rental, Form A, the APIs, working with PropTech, giving them data and helping them through safe incubators so they can understand a little bit more about the problems they solve and how they can really benefit from Property Finder's data and partnerships. The PF Academy, we didn't talk about that. I mean, building Property Finder's Academy that creates incredible amount of personalized curriculums and learnings for decision makers or newcomers into the business that need to learn how they can run their business, to agents or admins. They all have different jobs and they need to know how to really do their jobs properly. Building that online academy, for free and rolling it out. It actually rolls out next month.
If you need an instructor.
Absolutely. We're looking actually for partners on how we can acquire the right data that help our audience. There's a lot that we are really doing. The B2B events. We walked back to the partner program around customer segmentation. We have rolled out B2B forums, thought leadership forums like PF Connect, where we bring governments, developers, and agencies to discuss the pertinent issues and challenges and opportunities. Forums for diamonds, forum for rubies, forum for sapphires and emeralds, to listen, to continue to be personalized in what's happening in different layers of the sector. Now we're partnering with DLD around creating awareness campaigns, focused on renters and investors, these two personas specifically. So there's a lot that we're doing.
And you already did the Moashir with
Moashir, that's become really a standard for the government, not just in this country but in other countries.
Can you just describe what it is?
So, when you really take a look between the government that gets a lot of data around transactions and us that we get a lot of data around search. For example, one of the important things I know that you were asking me about earlier, who's coming? Yeah. So 75% of the sessions are from people inside the UAE, investors, renters, whatever. 25% is coming, from international communities, a little bit from the US, India, Russia, UK, Pakistan. They top the personas. So when we take a look at all this data, we take a look at pricing trends, we marry that with transactions, then Moashir is the culmination of the joint data between us and the government to not just talk about what's happening, but what are the trends.
What to expect.
So people internally and people externally that's kind of rushing to the UAE and Dubai, they can make the right decisions.
But that's so important because you are the first you're on the front line to notice any of these trends. Like, oh, hold on a second. All of a sudden, a lot of traffic coming from, I don't know, Delaware. Yeah. Don't ask me why I picked Delaware. But, that's specific. You could say, right, all of a sudden, a lot of Brits are searching. A lot of Germans are searching. You know that before anybody else does.
100%. So we know that, and it culminates in a lot of trending, and we correlate that with transactions. We understand leading indicators. We understand lagging indicators, and we publish that officially per the global industry standards, for other governments and other personas to use that information with confidence.
Okay. I want to know more about some of these trends or behaviors that you have access to because you're on the front line of it, that the industry would never know until you told it. So I'm going to quick fire some questions, and if you have the intel on it, let us know.
Okay. We will always share what's best for you and the audience.
Thank
for sure.
you. You've already answered ratio of international inquiries. So 75% local, and by local we mean UAE.
Yeah, people living in the UAE. So, and that 75% of the sessions that hit us create 84% of the leads.
Right. Okay.
In the country. So now think about, people at first glance may look and say, hey, but we thought there would be more from international. Well, 25% is still big, but take a look at the influx of people into Dubai. It's incredible, correct? The diversity of nationalities. And I think, let's take a look. The UAE at large and Dubai specifically have done an incredible agenda that many nations are envious of, on the social inclusion, the social integration, creating that safety and security that attracts families. So within the 75%, there's a lot of non-locals and non-Arabic audience that is recently landing in
just arrived. Yeah. Okay. And agency closure rates. You must, again, you're first in line, because just to give you an idea, when you decide you want to become an agency owner, you get an office, or you get a license. You get an office license, and then find some agents, and then get your Property Finder subscription. Yeah. So because you sign a 1-year contract, who's shutting down, how quickly, what are the stats around?
Let me share with you some high level stats.
You heard these here first. Is this published anywhere?
No.
Okay. The exclusive.
We don't talk about that, and yes.
It's not something nice to talk about.
Actually,
because there are a lot of really good agents that are going and setting up their own companies because maybe they think it's easier than it.
There's a lot of positive nuggets here. So take a look at the end of 2022. We had about 3,300, 3,371, if you want to be exact, agencies. We've had a churn of 864. That's 26%. Okay. And
that closed or left?
Closed.
Okay.
Closed, left. We know that they've just closed their trade license. And in the same period that those 864 have left, we've had 2,100 agencies jump. So today we are, at around 4,700 agencies. So the positive thing is it's incredible number of agencies coming to market. If you really think about that 26% churn, the majority of which is actually the first year entrants. And that's really why I'm encouraged to speak about that, because there's a lot of agencies, a lot of agents and maybe newcomers from outside that they come and want to land here. They hear maybe through a lot of the media about the rainbows and stuff. It's hard work. And if you don't have a business plan, and that's why we're actually focused in our PF Academy on that, content, in attend a little bit of a, course on what does it really take to be successful in being here. And I think there's some good lessons here for everybody to say, hey, make sure you have a business plan. Make sure you understand, like, what problem are you coming to solve? I mean, there's 4,700 agencies. There's still a lot of room. The fact that unanswered calls still are in the 25-30%, unanswered leads are in the 20%. There is still a lot of room for agencies and come and do that. But have a surgical precision on which community, which audience, which market segment, what's your differentiation? And I fundamentally believe there's a call out here, an outcry for all new agencies that are coming in. Please focus on quality. The market is getting much tougher on consumer expectations and on quality.
Right.
So therefore, those fly-by-night, where people, I remember the days of the .com era. For you to get a job, Silvia, you just need to have a resume. It didn't matter what the resume said, because we had a lot more jobs than we had people.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like that. Those days are over. That, hey, there's lots and lots and lots of demand, lots and lots of supply, and anybody can thrive. No, supply is scarce. Consumers are a lot more savvy. Property Finder and others are investing a lot in democratization of the data. And then if you're coming in, come with a plan.
Yeah. So what is the percentage of first year failure rate? You said it was 25% overall.
26% overall,
26%
and I would say, probably in the 35-40% is on the first years.
The first year of opening up. Okay, that's sad, but okay, it's facts, right?
We're actually doing something, but I'm not going to say what we're doing. We recognize
you can't
this.
do that. You have
we
to at least
are
give me a clue.
Structuring a program. For these first-time comers. We're going to flag them in our systems early. We're going to assign them a different team, and we're going to structure their contracts very differently.
Like a startup, like an accelerator kind of.
Yes.
Okay, that's very kind of Property Finder.
I'm not sure it's kind. I think
Supportive.
it's more of an obligation to the sector, an obligation to the profession. You can't really say you want to do all these things and be the market leader and not obsess about insights and percentages of these failure rates are not to be to go unnoticed.
And do you have the same stats for agent turnover?
Yes. So depending on the segment, remember we go back to our partner program and the customer segmentation, 30 to 50%. With obviously the lower of that for the larger agencies, on the higher of that, commensurate with the agency turnover on the lower sectors. But it's still a meaningful churn
Of agents
that needs to be addressed. And the call out here again, Sylvia, we talked about why should agents and agencies work with Property Finder. You know, from the minute you land on our platform, you're handheld with the academy, the training, the tools. Use them. See, it's those that are just trying to be a fly by night or just being cowboy like I don't think the market is catering to that anymore.
Okay, this one's more about consumer behavior trends. Is there a trend on communication preferences? Like, do you have the ratio of WhatsApp versus calls versus email? I'm sure, I mean, email back in the day used to be the only way, but now...
I'm thinking that maybe we should hire you. You seem to be asking all the right questions. So let me kind of recall, we do actually publish an internal report, again, for product enhancements and product design by our customer experience team, which is an amazing team. I'll go to battle with that team.
I'd love to come and spend the day there. Just ask lots of questions.
Rania and her team do an amazing job. And based on the last report, 21% of the preferred communication medium is calls.
Okay.
75% in WhatsApp.
Wow, I did not expect that.
And 3-4% is email. So email is dead.
Wow. You heard it here first. Email is dead.
Yeah.
Well, email is probably like, I don't know, 45-year-olds plus. Maybe they're still emailing.
Yeah.
Or if the PA is doing it on behalf of...
Think about what digital does to consumer psychology. People want things.
Instant.
This is why WhatsApp. It's not by accident, correct? And also, at some point of time, calls made a lot of sense when we introduced our entire kind of call management and call rewarding. But because it probably went overboard, you know, we saw people turtle. Agents overcalling consumers made consumers stop taking calls. Consumers overcalling agents. We've now kind of stabilized, and that's kind of 21% calls, 75%.
Wow. That's
WhatsApp.
I did not expect it to be that stark a difference. Okay. Do we have any stats on? You gave me the stats on missed calls or unreached. What was that again?
Yeah. So unanswered leads is in the SuperAgent family is around 14-15%. In the non-SuperAgent families, 25 to 30%.
Right.
Answered call rates for the SuperAgent family is around 65 to 70%, and it is 45 to 50% in the non-SuperAgent.
Right.
So there's a lot of calls. So this is why we're not saying we discourage people from coming to open agencies. Understand some of these and come and open an agency that fundamentally is zeroing in on some of the problems.
Yeah. But I don't want to call and speak to a receptionist. I'm sorry. That's not the journey I want. If I see agent A listing it, I want to pick up the phone and speak to agent A. But, you know, to ensure you capture the data and everything else, and you don't miss out on your call answering leads, most of them are being diverted to reception now, which might be.
There are different business models. Some of our customers, they centralize because they're running a centralized CRM and you know, call distribution as well as lead distribution. Some are more democratized. They've invested in the tech to be able to do that. Property Finder certainly is spending millions of dollars, so customers don't have to, if they want to democratize lead management and call management. We've invested in the infrastructure, and by the way, guess what? We don't charge.
Okay.
We give it to our customers for free.
Something for free from Property Finder. Grab it. Okay, here's something that I'm really curious about as well. Average listing time on the market. So, because this has a relevance to the way that agents behave. And I mean, can you start publishing this? Is this published anywhere?
Look, again, we do share this information with government, and it's probably in Muasher and in some of the other publications we have. We don't we don't publish it in a direct fashion. We use a lot of it first to provide insights to market and people coming in, but more importantly for product design and product enhancements.
Okay. So what is?
So you are probably outside Muasher. You will be. It's like hearing it first here. If I share the data with you.
Yeah, please share the data. You heard it here first. The average listing time on market in Dubai is
between 3 and 4 weeks. So 3.5 weeks.
Okay.
Okay. Now, but it's not just easy to say that, because a listing can be a rental listing, a listing can be a commercial listing, a listing can be a primary listing, an off-plan listing, or a resale. So I have to apologize to you and the audience, but I'll be more than happy to come back with data. I have the information on the most stable part of our sector,
right,
which is obviously resale. So that's 3.5 weeks, and after which we start seeing price changes.
Right.
Okay.
Do you have the data on that? How many weeks for a price change?
Yeah. So I'll walk you through some of that. Now, I'm kind of combining a couple things. So I'll take a step back and answer your question. So today, what's the average listing time
3.5 weeks?
For a period, for a listing? In resale, it is 65 days. The average listing before the listing is gone.
Right.
If it is ready secondary, meaning a landlord selling something secondary, or if it is off-plan secondary, it's 75 days. So there's 10 days between. And that really shows you that it's a hot market, for secondary. Anything that's available is gone. Now, within this 65, 75 days, in the first 3.5 weeks, we start seeing pricing changes. Right. Now, this is very important to share with you and the audience. What does that mean? There's a fallacy that says, after 3.5 weeks or 1 month, the listing doesn't
get stale. It gets stale.
It gets stale, and then we start seeing price decrease. That's not true. We do see price decreases. We also see price increases depending on the community, depending on the type of the listing. We do see pricing both ways.
Right.
Now, why am I saying this? And what's really important, to share with the audience, think if you were back in 2021 or 2022 or even 2023 at the beginning of those years, and you wanted to invest for whatever reason, and you decide, you know what, the market will come down. Pretty much that entire audience is outside the market right now, because we've seen listings do 2 and 3 times since then. So don't delay decisions based on anecdotal stories. The supply-demand economics and realities in markets like Dubai continue to create incredible, hyper-dynamic changes, and fueled by lots of the people coming from outside, where Dubai specifically outperforming many global cities and continue to be 30 to 50% below the price per square foot. So don't anchor your decisions and bets on, this listing will come down, or in this community we're saturated. And, in my opinion, if you have a need, action that need.
Yeah.
At least this year, we're not really expecting a lot of volatility in terms of massive price corrections.
I love that. It sounded like a public service announcement from Property Finder. Love it. Okay. Price reductions, very important topic. Is there a percentage? Because there are price increases and reductions. So I'm sure the increases will cancel out the percentage reduction. But let's say I've got a property that's on the market. We're approaching the 3.5 week mark. It hasn't sold or it hasn't rented. is there a typical price or an average price that it comes down by?
So I know you're asking about an average, but it really depends on the community.
Yeah.
So when you really take a look at what we're seeing with suburban living, people moving away from the center, to Tilal Al Ghaf, Mira, Reem, JVC, and so on and so. We're actually seeing, prices, 10-15%, change. But I'm not really sure that is a policy or that's a rule. I would say a better public service announcement is get on Property Finder, use Data Guru, search, look at the data insights, understand the data, and then understand if this is the property that you're actually that you really want. And by understanding the community insights and the pricing insights, you're able to understand the trajectory. But again, we don't see such a big volatile price swings this year.
Because in the UK, again, like this is, I can only compare it to Rightmove and Zoopla, who would frequently publish like average time on market, percentage price reductions and so on. And we would use that data as agents to go in when we're trying to win a listing. We would say, look, I'm pricing it correctly. The first 7 days on market is the hottest, right? So let's not let's not kind of experiment with pricing. Let's go in at the right price, sell within 7 days, and this is my strategy to do that, Mr. Seller, Mr. Landlord. So yeah, that information is very useful, and I'm glad I know that, and I'm glad you heard it here first. Okay, now Cherif, my final question.
Drum roll.
Drum roll. You have charted on the Arab Power List 3 years. You're on the who's who. So this is very unlikely, highly unlikely that you will ever become a broker. But if you were to become a broker, with the information that you know today from having this position at Property Finder, what would you be doubling down on? And you can give me a top 3, top 5, or a number 1.
First, I think you're flattering. I'm not really sure I'm smart enough to be a broker. That's why I'm a tech guy.
Well, you said you wanted to be home for dinner, so that's out.
Yeah, that's true. It's a good question, Sylvia. I would answer this question differently if I'm in a market in like Dubai or I'm in a more stable market. And perhaps the answer would be the same, although maybe the way I apply these things would be different. At the end of the day, no market will sustain to continue to be this crazy market. There's laws of physics to everything. And I'm speaking from the heart. So, and I don't know if what I'm about to say is right or wrong and how the audience will react to it. If history has taught us one thing, is when you are on the side of customer centricity and delivering a value service, even when organizations go up and down, if they remain anchored on those pillars and they transform the way of doing things in line with what the market demands, they go on to be pillars and lighthouses. And I think there's been so much wealth that's been created in probably the second most important sector that's bringing a lot of foreign direct investment to this lovely nation that we call our home. And much of this wealth, we could argue if it was done the right way or the wrong way in real estate by adhering to values, not values, value and quality. There's always money to be made when there's a lack of balance, when there's too much supply and a lot less demand, or when there's a lot of demand and a lot less supply, people always find ways. That's the incredible thing about the human psyche. We invented AI. AI did not invite us, so we'll find shortcuts. But eventually, if you're running a business for the short term, then grab your earnings and do something with them. If you're here because you want to be, you have to have a legacy, you want to build a legacy, and you want to be here for the long run, then the best thing is follow the same values that we as an organization in the sector follow. We're here for the long run. Take a look at how long we've been in the market. Can you imagine? And I'm sure you've heard of other portals that have come and gone. Yeah.
Oh, I have. Yep.
So, and even portals that have done so well and now not doing so well. Why is Property Finder steadfast? In its legacy, in its reinvention. I believe we may be misunderstood from the outside because the brand is a lot more humble than probably many attribute, a level of humility to it. But it's the consumption. We're consumed. 700 employees consumed with customer centricity. How do we solve problems? And we spend millions of dollars on solving problems that we don't even monetize, that we don't even get payback or even a thank you. So my point is, there's something to be learned from anchoring your legacy on something sustainable, something lasting. The agents that did well in a period of time will not do well in a stable environment that is more demanding of responsiveness and quality. And if you're not a really super agent, if you're not an amazing agent, you're not given even show on the radar for the consumers. So that's really how I would look at it. I would say there is incredible amount of opportunity still in the UAE and Dubai specifically for more agencies to come, but to fundamentally err on the side of quality and value and customer centricity, consumer centricity.
Amazing. Well, we can round it off there. Don't think you're going to be an agent anytime soon, but thank you so much, Cherif. That was
Absolutely.
An episode full of golden nuggets and exclusive golden nuggets. A bunch of you heard it here first, golden nuggets. So I'm privileged.
The privilege is mine and Property Finder. Thank you so much for the invite. Thank you for being such a gracious host. I'm grateful, obviously, to have this chance to speak to the audience. You're right. Many times we're stuck in the hustle and the bustle, sitting back a little bit relaxed and just sharing some data and some perspective that may help people is actually something that makes me very fulfilled. So thank you for making the opportunity.
My pleasure. Thank you very much. And that's a wrap for today. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Thank you.